Hello everyone, I am Kyubei Kuroda, a Japanese. I used to be a fund manager specializing in international investments. Now recently, I have been sharing my insight through YouTube and publication in Japan. I am a descendant of a samurai family with a 450-year history. First, I looked at the report from several research institutions regarding the impact of the energy shortage caused by the current war between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Here's what I found. A blockade of the Strait of Hormuz would cause 20 to 25% of crude oil and 20% of LNG to disappear. The warning suggests crude oil prices could reach 120 to 200 per barrel. And global GDP would be reduced by approximately 0.2%, while Japan, which is highly dependent on imports, could see a reduction of up to 0.65%. The growth is expected to slow throughout 2026 and followed by a gradual recovery from 2027 onwards. Really? Too optimistic, isn't it? Because I can point out several points. The first, the Gulf states have fled, and their energy infrastructure assets have been damaged. So recovery will require an end to the war, or repair and upgrade of the facilities, and securing workers and engineers for that purpose. After the war ends in the summer, actually I don't know when the war ends. I don't know, in the summer or autumn. But after the war ends in the summer, and it takes time to restore essential infrastructure, to secure personnel, design and repair upgrades, construction and compression, and resume export. Accordingly, it will likely be a 3 to 5 year downturn at shortest. The decline in the operational efficiency of global supply chain could potentially prolong the situation for another decade or more. This will have a long-term impact on food, sea transport, air transport, and chemical production in countries outside the Gulf region as well. The shortage of goods, inflation, the bankruptcies, and unemployment will accelerate in countries everywhere. This will affect large corporations and small business alike, the capitalists and workers alike. It's not a matter of money. That is because there simply aren't enough goods. That is, this is not a problem that can be solved by printing money, as was the case of the Lehman shock. We have entered a 10-year winter of fiscal scarcity. This crisis paralyzed the production of nitrogen fertilizers in agriculture and the synthetic fibers in clothing and active pharmaceutical ingredient in medicine. So behavioral shift, the era of disposability is dead, that we are forced into an era of perfect recycling, where every molecule of plastic and scrap of fabric is a strategic asset. And for physical recovery, the replacing bespoke plant components take years. Recovery is a 5 to 10 year cycle and not a few fiscal quarters. Obviously, we must find another energy source. It's nuclear. The world is turning its attention to SMR, small modular reactors. But I have my doubts. because it seemed like an outdated roadmap. The world has already changed. Here are my thoughts after looking at the roadmap. The dream of a peaceful carbon neutral era is now a relic of the past. And spent over 20 years to build, the SMR is merely a braking system without human intervention after a runaway reaction occurs. It's just control after a runaway chain reaction has already happened. The nuclear fusion is better. Just cut off the power supplies to stop acceleration. There are several options for nuclear fusion development, including non-tokamak and helical types. However, to ensure development in the shortest possible time frame, the next generation tokamak type seems to be the best choice, because one, the solid shortest route based on mature theory. 2. Reduce size device of 1/10. 3. The spark demonstration reactor already exists. And last, the application of SMR's modular factory construction know-how. Application of SMR's modular factory construction know-how. There are 3 key concepts to follow when developing next-generation tokamak type systems using agile methodologies. The one, skip the trial and error processes by AI plus digital twins. 2. Parallel development. 3. Initialization and factory production. Based on that concept, further essential Japanese elemental technologies are required. The HTS wires, it means high temperature superconductivity. This confines a plasma in a closed space. And second is high power millimeter wave heating, gyrotron. This heats to over 100 million degrees Celsius. And finally, the bonding technology for heat resistance and absorbing components. This is the technology for high density and leakage prevention. This technology already exists in Japan, so it will be possible, for example, by collaborating with US-made AI. However, the tricky part lies in people's perceptions. In other words, the obstacle must be removed, the barriers of the legal system, and the innovation dilemma in large corporations. This could also include the industry dilemma. And the necessary mechanism for fostering startups and SME, small and medium-sized enterprises. And I won't discuss it here, but I have an idea that the Japanese government should adopt. Now, why do Japanese companies hold the key to nuclear fusion technology? The companies like Fujikura and Furukawa Electric represent a different breed of capitalism. While the global market optimized for short-term ROI, these Japanese giants continue to refine HTS technology for decades, even when no immediate market existed. Their strength lies in organizational memory, a collective intuition on the factory floor, where decades of failure are stored as strategic assets. The Japanese companies have been criticized by foreign shareholders for having internal reserves that resemble piggy banks. However, the manufacturing requires immense patience. The next is what kind of society would we have if nuclear fusion were implemented? For example, in Japan, the following would be possible. It is resources from sewage and municipal waste. For example, it uses reconstruction and the molecular level, the molecular cleavage, destruction, and regeneration. They're using supercritical water. This is supported by precision welding and processing technology of small Japanese factories that manufacture carbonization equipment and pressure vessels. Now, next, pinpoint reconstruction using a catalyst. This includes the world's most advanced catalyst technology of Japan. And then, atomic rearrangement by microorganisms. The Japan's world-leading fermentation technology are rooted in the tradition of sake, Japanese sake, and the miso production. Finally, electrosynthesis. This can be done in other countries as well. Japan has suffered numerous disasters. Even in the last 100 years, the capital Tokyo was devastated by the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923. The Tokyo air raid of 1945 and the two atomic bombs resulted in 3.1 million deaths. The Great Hanshin Awaji earthquake of 1995 killed 6,400 people. And the Great East Japan earthquake of 2011 killed approximately 20,000. Not only Tokyo, but also regional cities were reduced to ruins. However, the Japanese people have rebuilt each time. In 1992, Wolfowitz advocated for single U.S. hegemony, strengthening the neoconservatives. This included not only increasing military power, but also a soft power strategy to weaken the economic power of countries like Japan and South Korea. The first step in this strategy towards Japan was an economic threat called the Japan-US Comprehensive Consultation. In the financial sector, this included opening up public pension funds to foreign companies. I still remember it clearly. One day, my boss called me in and handed me a memo. It stated that investment should be in the form of a private placement or partnership. He said the government had neglected its promises for 1 year and that the public pension system couldn't resolve it. Ultimately, the mission fell to me alone. Another company chosen was a bank-affiliated investment advisory firm. Their team of 10 was probably as competent as bureaucrats. On my side, as a security affiliated investment advisor, I was the only one. But within the first week, while they were still having their startup meetings, I already researched all the regulations, created scheme, set up law firms in Japan and the Cayman Island, and submitted a draft scheme and contract. In the end, my proposal was accepted. However, this period marked the beginning of a 30-year-long disaster caused by neoconservatives. I didn't know anything about the Wolfowitz doctrine. I probably couldn't even find it on the internet at that time. If I had known about it then, I think I would have refused, even if it was my boss's order. This was before I became Chief Investment Officer. I didn't particularly suspect anything, but looking back now, I regret it. It continues to this day, albeit under a different name, the Annual Reform Recommendations. Looking back at the 1990s, Japan was a rule taker under the Annual Reform Recommendations. Our economic system was forcibly dismantled to align with US-led financial standards. At that time, it felt like a loss of sovereignty, a sacrifice of a long-term focus for Western-style efficiency. Today, the tables have turned. The Western world, now deseparate to escape the volatility of oil-rich regions, finds itself dependent on the very inefficiency they once urged us to abandon. This is Japan's silent reclamation of sovereignty. We are no longer just a subordinate ally, we are the indispensable guardian of the strategic exit from the age of resource wars. This time video is 100th video on YouTube channel named Cube Insight Lab. And I have studied Substack. The 4 years I have analyzed these power structures from Kawasaki for a Japanese audience. I am deeply grateful to the community that has supported this journey. However, the challenges we face, energy, AI, and global stability, are borderless. To celebrate this 100 video journey, I am expanding my mission. The Cube Insight Global, KIG, is my commitment to bringing these unique lens from Japan to global stage. That's why I start my Substack and made English version video. I am 70 and not good at speaking English, but I am grateful if audience have attention to my perspective as Japanese. True peace requires a physical alternative to the oil pipeline. But as we move toward an era of energy abundance enabled by HTS technology, we must ask, are we prepared for a world where geography no longer determines power? How would your country's strategy change if energy became a technological asset rather than a territorial one? I look forward to hearing your insight in the comment. Thank you.